Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Saturday. My name is Ann Winkle, and this is my presentation over Module 1, Personal Information and the 3 Levels of Government Control of Public Education for School Law. And here we begin. Information about me. I was born and raised in Glen Elder, Kansas, which is a small town in north central Kansas, if you didn't know that. There are 5 members of my family. My father, pictured here, owns and operates Winkle Manufacturing, which is a manufacturing company in Glen Elder that sells livestock. My mother is the vice president at Farmway Credit Union in Beloit. My older brother works for NASA. He has worked for NASA since he graduated from college, and he currently works in Langley, Virginia. And my younger sister just completed her pharmacy degree at KU and started her first job in July in the Kansas City area. So this is a picture from her wedding, which was last October, and that is a little bit about my family. School and work environment and background. I graduated from Beloit High in 2009. Then I went to Wichita State and graduated in 2013 with a secondary math education degree. And then coming soon would be my administrative degree from Fort Hays State, and I hope to have that completed by 2022. My background of work, my first teaching job was at Truesdale Middle School in Wichita, Kansas, part of the Wichita Public Schools, USD 259. I was there for 5 years, and then I became a high school math teacher at Heights High School, again part of Wichita Public Schools, and I'm about to begin my 3rd year at Heights, which would be my 8th year overall. And then in the future, once I get my master's degree in educational administration, I hope to be either a middle school or high school principal or assistant principal, and I really would like anywhere. I have no specific place I want to be a principal at, whatever opportunity comes along. Some other important details and facts just about me. I was a coach. I let coaching go currently to get this degree, but I coached at Truesdale Middle School, a variety, volleyball, basketball, track, and then the last 2 years I was assistant girls basketball at Heights, which is pictured here. Some of my favorite activities, I like to be outside. I love taking walks, riding my bike. I play the piano. I love to tutor kids in math. I have a lot of friends that let me tutor their kids. I do tutoring programs in the summer, whatever the case may be. And then friends and family are very important to me, so I spend a lot of my free time with them. Some of my goals, short term, is to make it through this school year with everything going on, a very steep learning curve with technology and Microsoft Teams. And I hope to manage my time well between teaching school and being in school at Fort Hays. So those are some of my short-term goals. Long-term goal is to get this master's degree in educational administration and then learn and become confident in my admin role while completing practicum hours. I believe that I will learn a lot when I'm actually observing and being with administrators, so I hope to gain a lot from that experience and then get an admin job and start a family. So again, that's a little bit about me and who I am as a person. On to the basics of school law. So talking about the different supports from every level, we'll start with the federal level. I learned a lot of history when I read the articles and just a little history behind it that kind of correlates with the supports. So support from the federal level is always changing based on the history. Beginning in 1867, when the Department of Education was founded, it was founded to collect information to help the states establish schools. Then the 10th and the 14th Amendment came along, and the 10th Amendment is that states were given powers that were not mentioned in the Constitution, which would be public education. And then the 14th Amendment really figured out what supports the federal level had. That amendment is that there was citizenship to all persons born in the United States, and each state would provide equal protection under the law to all people. And if the states failed to do that, then the federal government would step in and intervene. So those 2 amendments really helped develop what support the federal level gave to education. Then in 1965, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act came about, and it provided equal opportunity for all students. Kind of had the background of Title I. So we had equal opportunity for low achieving students in high poverty areas. Then we had civil rights, Title IX, the Individuals with Disability Act. All those things together helped give equal opportunity for all students. And then 1983, Nation at Risk was published, and that was a report that said that U.S. schools were producing graduates that did not compete well with students from other countries. So that kind of helped develop how the federal level supported education. And then last, another big one is No Child Left Behind. They reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and there was a lot of accountability with No Child Left Behind in public schools. So based off that, again, from all that history, you come up with these supports that the federal level has on public education. It's to make sure no student is denied the right to equal educational opportunity. They provide funding to facilitate access to educational opportunities for high needs kids. They support educational research and development. They support the development and conditions to promote continuous improvement of state and local education systems. And then finally, money is a big support. About 10% of the total cost comes from the federal government, and most of that comes with rules and regulations, kind of similar to like No Child Left Behind, Common Core standards, if students adopted those and they got more money and grants. So usually the money that you get from the federal government comes with rules and regulations. So that's a little bit about the federal level supports. Next are supports from the state level. And according to the 10th Amendment, as I mentioned, public education is a state power, so the state has the primary role compared to the federal government. They make provisions for education at the state level. They pass laws to govern school practices. They're the ones that establish and implement the standards, like the Common Core standards. They establish school and college curriculum, and then they make the requirements to enroll and to graduate. For example, it's 24 hours to graduate from the state of Kansas, senior graduate. And then funds, 92% comes from non-federal sources, so that would be state and local government. So that's a big portion of the money comes from the state and local government for public education. And states provide less than half of school costs. This is all from the articles that I read. On to the local level. Local level is very similar to the state. Usually the state delegates a lot of things to the local level, but they can always take it back. We've seen some of that with this COVID situation. States say things, they either give have this local level delegated, or it's at the state level. So back to local level, the given responsibility of accountability and operations, curriculum, hiring, deciding when schools are closed or built, day-to-day operation, that's all from the local level. And funding kind of varies from the articles I read. It's about half of the funding comes from the local level. They use the property taxes of homes and businesses. So that's kind of a breakdown of the supports from each of the three levels. Now let's talk about the leadership at the federal level. So the leadership, how it's kind of broken down is you have the Department of Education, and there's a Secretary of Education, which is currently Betsy DeVos, and then there's the Department of Education. They are the smallest staff of all the cabinet agencies, but they still have the third largest budget. So kind of put that in perspective. Excuse me. And they are all paid positions, the people that work for the department and the Secretary of Education. They are working to improve results for our education system for all students. Again, it's always all students. Equal opportunity is big. And then they administer programs that cover every area of education and age. Kind of comes in with the No Child Left Behind, Title I programs. That's kind of what they do, along with those supports that I already listed. So again, making sure all students have equal opportunity for education. Leadership from the state level. This level has the most power and control over public education. Going again with the 10th Amendment. Kansas Department, it's made up of the Kansas Department of Education and the Kansas State Board of Education. So Kansas Department of Education, they're paid positions. They're supervised by the commissioner. They supervise the implementation of the policy and programs, and they administer the budget. Then you have the Kansas State Board of Education. They are elected volunteers. There's 10 members to cover specific regions. I saw a picture online, and for example, Wichita is its own little piece because it's such a big, we have such a big district in Wichita. So we have one that represents our area. There are 10, like I said, and they set the policy for the state for public education, and they approve accreditation, so whether or not your school is an accredited school. So really, the State Board of Education sets the policies, and then the Kansas Department of Education supervises the implementation of these policies and programs. This information I received, I had a conversation with the Wichita Public Schools Executive Director of Public Affairs, and he gave me much of this information. He also gave me information about the local level. This is very specific to my district. My superintendent is Alicia Thompson. She was appointed by the Board of Education. She supervises the day-to-day operations of the district. She implements policies, procedures, and programs, and she has many people in the district to help her because we have assistant superintendents and so on. And it is a paid position with a 3-year contract. So specifically, mine is Alicia Thompson, but you have a superintendent, and they supervise the day-to-day operations. Then we have a Board of Education. We have 7 board members. They cover 6 regions, 1 at large. They are volunteers. They are voted on by the public in an official election. Then the board officers are voted on by the board members every January. So like you have a president of the board, and they develop and approve policy, allocate the budget, and supervise the superintendent. So Board of Education supervises the superintendent. The superintendent supervises all the other people. So that is the makeup of the leadership at the local level. Now down to the components. So component 6.1, which is to evaluate, develop, and implement management, communication, technology, school level governance, and operation systems that support each student's learning needs and promote the mission and vision of the school. That is a local level influence, because again, it's very specific to the mission and the vision of the schools. So that's done by the superintendent and the Board of Education at the local level. 6.2, the influence is the local level, and it is to evaluate, develop, and advocate for a data-informed and equitable resourcing plan that supports school improvement and student development. So it's a very specific plan for every school or a school in itself, so that is done at the local level. That is the influence of it. And then 6.3, component 6.3, reflectively evaluate, communicate about, and implement laws, rights, policies, and regulations to promote student and adult success and well-being. That is a state level influence. Talking about implementing laws, rights, and policies, state's power, because state has majority of control of public education. Final thought, how does all of this support the educational success and well-being of each student and adult? My thought on that, every level has a specific function, role, and impacts that are outlined. The direction they give to the level below them impacts the classroom directly. So you start at the federal level, that goes to the state, that goes to a local, which goes directly to specifically my classroom, for example. This also guarantees that every student will be provided equal opportunity because it starts at the top with the 14th Amendment at the federal level. So all of this comes together because every level has specific function, roles, and impacts as were outlined, and then it's all to give everyone an equal educational opportunity. And these are my references, and that is the end of my presentation over myself and the different levels for education, public education. Thank you so much, and have a great day.